And we're going to do leadership.
Leadership, leadership, leadership. When I think about leadership and teaching, I feel really passionate about taking teaching and leadership off this pedestal and making it more accessible to everyone to share those roles with each other. What I would call the stereotypes of leadership is there's this reference to power.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about people feeling empowered, but what is it about this word power, or people abusing power? And I think, no. What is leadership to me? And I think more about being someone's cheerleader. And I know you've mentioned lending them your confidence.
Definitely.
And so talking about leadership, I want to talk about leadership because I know for me with Shedding at the start, it was like more of a student-teacher relationship where people come and here are some skills. And I expect there was leadership in there, but it wasn't so prevalent in my mind. I thought, I'm teaching. And then once students had done the workshops where they were learning tools initially, and they would come back in more of a volunteer capacity to do space makers, to do Repair Cafe, to do our sculpture builds, they come back and there is still teaching happening, but it's more like people come back and they say, I want to be involved, I want to give back, I want to be part of this community project, part of this collective, and I want to create together collectively. So what are we going to do? And that's when I go, oh, I'm the leader.
Yeah.
People are following.
Yeah.
And I think that freaked me out a little bit, to think, oh, I've got to go the right way, or I've got to make sure that I do the right thing. And this idea of confidence in vulnerability has come up, and what we want to model when we are in that role where someone says, which way are we going? And you're going, oh, I'm the guide right now.
Yes.
To go, I've heard people say, oh, I don't know what to do. And the problem is not that they don't know what to do, it's that there's almost like a shame or a negative emotion about not knowing what to do. And I think about confidence in vulnerability and being like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's try this.
That's the space.
And that confidence
Yeah.
people are drawn to. And I think it's also modelling just this humanness.
Willing to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Willing to fail.
I noticed on a Shedding on-site job that we did with a group of volunteers, one of our volunteers arrived much before I did, and the person whose site it was, where we were constructing a deck and an outdoor shower, she had arrived prior to me and been given instructions and had become the foreman. And so I rocked up and she said, oh, so-and-so said I'm the foreman. And I said, great, you're the leader, let's go. And she was like, great, I have no idea what I'm doing, will you help me? And I was like, yeah, of course. But I thought, wow, how brilliant to experiment with different people in these roles of leadership so that they can have a play with it. So I think about that scenario where this person became the foreman, and I think what's important about that scenario is that person was up for it. So then I think about leadership and I think, great, when people are up for it. But I imagine that it could be quite intimidating. And so it's trying to make something accessible that might be, to some people, intimidating because of the responsibilities that they have in that role.
Have you thought about how you might change a perception about what leadership is?
Well, I've been saying to people, and I've been kind of testing the waters with them, so I've been saying to people, you know, I really want to get teaching and leadership off this pedestal and bring it down. So you teach me to use chopsticks and I lead you down to the creek. And that's when people go, oh yeah, we've actually been doing this already.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not a thing that's like, oh, maybe one day I will be a leader. it's like, oh, we've been doing this already. We've been doing this when we were kids.
Yes.
And so it's trying to almost remember and remind ourselves.
And what was it that we loved about that kid that led us down to the creek? What was it?
I think it's their confidence.
Yeah, but it's also like a caring thing. I always felt cared about, like
Yeah.
I was brave enough to go down to the creek because they were in charge. You know, they were looking out for me.
Yeah.
It was just the nicest feeling. It was usually the older kids leading the little ones.
Yeah.
And they weren't bossy or anything. They were just as excited as I was about going to the creek.
I know for me it was like, oh, I don't want to accept that role, or I don't want to, oh no, I'm not. I'm just here with you guys.
Yes.
I wanted to stop this hierarchical thing
Yes.
sort of happening.
Yes.
And then I remember people saying, it's okay
Yes.
for you to be in this space, the one that is showing us the way. Like, we're asking you to do that. We would like you to step into that role. And so I think about the language that I have learned through different practices. I know for myself, I've done the compassionate communication training and read those books and practiced it so much. And the mental health first aid, and then most recently the authentic relating, that I can use language that is quite invitational so that I can make requests as opposed to demands, which is something they talk about specifically in compassionate communication. And I can express my needs, or rather than saying, I know we were talking about it one day with Repair Cafe, that we need to let people know that it's not okay to drop off their item, that they can't drop off their item. Do not drop off your item. You have to come in and be a part of the repair. And I was like, oh, no. So the way I would communicate that is, hey, welcome to the space. Come on in, come and be a part of it. This is how it runs. This is the setup. Show them around. Would you like a cup of tea? What item have you got to repair? Oh, that will be this person. Come and meet the person. This is how we facilitate this space. Would you like to be a part of that? So there's a invitation as opposed to this is what we do and this is what you have to do.
Big difference. Huge difference. Well, it's about defensiveness as well. People have their rules and their set of rules and they're defensive of them. And you're coming from a completely different aspect. You're coming from an invitation and you're not defensive. You're so pleased to see them, to be part of that. And I think we lose track of that because people break the rules and we don't know what to do. So it's, just keeping sight of your generosity of spirit, integrity, setting boundaries. If you were to do all that and they'd say, well, nah, I just want to drop it off and go, and you'll say, well, I don't think that's going to fit today, but maybe you'd like to come back next week. Great.
And I think at the base of that is the inclusivity and well-being.
Yes.
Hey, welcome to this space. Come in. Would you like to
Absolutely.
meet everyone?
Yeah.
How are you today?
Yeah.
And so that they feel welcome and they feel cared about. And this is something you've made reference to often. And I have felt when I come to your place, every time I feel cared about.
It's the very basic of that's what you build on. If that's not there, that's shaky ground, people don't quite know where they are and they need to know where they sit.
Yeah. It's been quite interesting this year in particular as shedding has grown and we've had more people working for shedding, and people have called me boss. And I say, I'm not the boss. We're colleagues. Shedding's the boss.
Yes.
We define what shedding is, and we have our values and agreements within that we say, yeah, I'd like to take on these responsibilities. I'd like to be a part of that. And it can change. So I think the whole idea with this model is that it changes as our needs change. And so it's such an experiment that there are a lot of unknowns that we're playing with. And I think learning to play in that realm of the unknowns and uncertainty and have trust. The leadership part of it, it's something that has been like, oh, also I'm learning how to do this. I think about this person, the foreman on the building site, when we went to do our shedding on site, going, oh yeah, I'd love to try being in a leadership role. Will you help me? And that being the attitude to it, instead of, oh, you're the leader. Well, now what do we do?
I think people forget, as you were referring to, that you think, okay, leadership, they will know all the answers, we'll go with them. And I do agree that it's good to have one leader. I think I've been in groups where everybody is the leader, and it doesn't work. It gets all bogged down and clogged up.
Yeah.
But if it keeps coming back to that person, bringing it back there and going out again, bringing it back, I think that's really useful.
There have been different, there are more leaders of different bits. So if I've shown someone something and they've participated in that a few times, then when it comes around again, I'll say, oh, would you be up for taking those two people and showing them? And anything you don't know, come back and we can check in on that.